So welcome to day 4, strategy 4. So far, we've talked about how, when we feel vulnerable, we can avoid things or put them off, or make perfection our unachievable goal in an effort to avoid vulnerability. And how, when we start to do these things, our language can become harsh and shaming in an attempt to drive ourselves forward despite our fears. Strategies 1 and 2 were ways of changing perspective on this behaviour and on ourselves so that we can achieve more and take greater pleasure in what we're doing. In strategy 3, we looked at how, if we take this new perspective and develop it, we can vastly improve the way we communicate with and impact our audience. In day 3, we also started to look at that inner monologue that can be running in our heads, not only when we actually stand up in public, but also during preparation and in its aftermath. How the shoulds and got to start to play, and the more errors we perceive we are making, the louder they become. Yesterday, I said this was our conscious mind trying to control us and the outcome. And in strategy 4, I'd like to look at what I mean by this and what might be going on for us. So strategy 4 is keep the conscious mind in its place. In our culture, we have a tendency to laud our intellect, to make it really important and the most valuable part of us. The more intelligent we are, the more we tend to do this. We can even see our intellect as being who we really are, discounting our body as a mere appendage and disregarding the subconscious. We can view the body as something that even gets in the way or lets us down, and something that has to be controlled, brought into line by our mind. Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now, looks at this in great detail. He analyses how the conscious mind, or the Freudian conscious ego, can only consider the future and the past and has no place in the now. However, it wants to be in control, and to take control, it constantly runs over and over the future and the past, essentially worrying. Although we have to consider the future and make decisions over it, and we can use the past to learn and make better decisions, we mustn't disregard the now. After all, as Eckhart points out, life is really just a sequence of nows, one after the other. And if we fail to consider the now, then we're missing out on life. This is a lot of what mindfulness is about. Slowing things down so that we can appreciate the now. One of my favourite bits of the book is when Eckhart says to close your eyes and think, is there anything wrong with right now? The vast majority of the time, the answer is no. Sometimes we can be so busy worrying about the past and the future that we fail to appreciate the now. When we feel vulnerable and we start to use smog words to try and protect ourselves, this allows an entry point for our conscious mind. Thinking about what we ought to do or what we should have done, rather than being in the now. Another book that looks at this is The Inner Game of Tennis by Tim Galway. In this book, he talks of the division between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind and the body. He refers to the conscious mind as self 1 and the subconscious mind and body as self 2. As a tennis coach, he noticed that when people were wanting to improve, their conscious mind began to try and take control of the way they played. And when it did, they wouldn't play as well. The wrong muscles would be contracted and tension would creep in. This is because the conscious mind was trying to do the job of the body. It was trying to come in, take control, and solve the problem. But it's not the job of the conscious mind to decide which muscle to contract or use. Its job is to issue the instruction, for example, hit the ball, and let the subconscious mind and the body fulfill that instruction. Take a simple example, picking up a mug. We do it without consciously deciding which muscles to use. But when we start to try and do that, to try and think about which muscles and the physical action in real detail, it becomes awkward and seemingly difficult. So when we feel vulnerable, we want to protect ourselves. Our conscious mind wants to come in, fix the problem, and make sure we're okay. And we trust it to do that because we have it on a pedestal. It's the clever bit of us, the more important bit. We start to use smog words to get us to do the things we were avoiding and to make sure that we do them better, so that we don't have to feel stupid or vulnerable again. Tim Galway noticed that the harder people tried, the worse it seemed to get. The worse they would get, the more the conscious mind would want to take over and fix things. When we start to use the smog words with ourselves, it may be useful to think about a few things. As we've said before, number one, they can be an indicator that we might be feeling vulnerable. Number two, we may be using them to strong-arm ourselves into doing things that we feel uncomfortable about or vulnerable about. Number three, we're more likely to feel shame if we fail to do the things or fail to do them well, as we've now implied an importance to the task by using these words, and also an acknowledgement of that importance. Number four, we're more likely to put our armour on to protect ourselves when we begin to feel this way. Looking at the role the conscious mind plays, we can add a few things to this list. They can be a sign that the conscious mind is trying to take over and solve the problem. Number two, when the conscious mind starts to control the situation, this can create tensions where there need not be tensions and cause physical and mental anxiety. The more anxious we become, the more our conscious minds will try to control the situation. The harder we try, the worse it gets. So the harder we try, and the worse it gets. Number three, this will prevent you enjoying the now. And if you're not enjoying or being in the now, then how can your audience be comfortable and be with you in the now and truly enjoy and take in what you're saying or singing to them? When we let go and trust the body and the subconscious again, we have a better chance of letting it do what it does best and most naturally. Being in the now can take as much courage as taking off the armour and being vulnerable. In a sense, our conscious mind's armour is to think things through, to try and solve the issue. In sports coaching and psychology and positive psychology, they talk about flow and being in the flow. They talk about it being a state of consciousness in which a person performing an activity is totally absorbed in that activity. They have a feeling of energized focus and full involvement with what they're doing. It was first defined by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in 1990, and he described it as being when people feel strong, alert, in effortless control and unself-conscious, at the peak of their abilities. But this isn't something that can be achieved if you're wearing armour or trying to control the situation, or even just trying really hard. To achieve flow, you have to first be in the now. The conscious mind, our intellect, is hugely important. So what is its role? Tim Galway talks of distracting the conscious mind, and would talk of getting players to focus on the seam of the ball as it flies through the air to distract the conscious mind. With my musician clients, I talk about using the emotion of the music and the meaning of the words to employ the conscious mind, because this can actually be a useful activity for the conscious mind to focus on, but not to focus on how to express that, simply to think about the emotion and the meaning of the words. In business meetings or courtrooms, the focus can be on the purpose, the message, not the minutiae or the means of transmission. Keep the focus external, not internal, not on who you are and how you are in the situation. Conscious mind has an important role, but if it's afforded too much status and leeway, it can try to take over everything and start doing bits it doesn't do well. Strategy 4 is keep the conscious mind in its place and enjoy the now. Many of my clients have asked how they can improve if they don't use shoulds and oughts or should haves and ought to haves. Tomorrow, we shall look at precisely that. I'm Hattie Volker, qualified life coach accredited with the International Coaching Federation. If you'd like to make sure that you get all 5 of my strategies, then click the button that will appear at the end of the video. And if you'd like to find out more about how life coaching could transform your life, then visit my website at findyourtruevoice.co.uk.